Welcome everybody to this special online seminar in honor of International Literacy Day 2024. It's great to see so many people here and joining us from so many different corners of the world. I can see just now people in Guinea, in Uganda, in the US, in Pakistan. Zoom meetings are a plague in so many ways, but it is fantastic that they enable us to do this sort of thing. So it makes it all worthwhile. As I say, on behalf of ALEF, that we're really glad that you could all join us today. For us, I think we always feel it's sort of self-evident that literacy is a women's rights issue and that literacy education works best when empowerment and claiming of rights are put at the center of it. So it's sort of great pleasure to be able to get together with people from all different corners of both practitioners and researchers who are out after the same thing, to share maybe some advice and some perspectives and points of view. A couple of little practical things for today. I've already said if people could keep their microphones off when we're not asking questions or comments or speaking, so we don't all talk over each other at once. If nobody has any objections, this seminar will be recorded, and we will then make that recording available to all of you participants and to our ALEF's followers and supporters. So if there is anyone who has an issue with that, please let me know. If there's anyone who would prefer for their face not to be visible, then perhaps you turn off your camera. In terms of our agenda for today, we have three main speakers, Rafat, Barbara, and Resty. We will take, I think, questions and comments and discussion all together at the end when everyone has spoken to give a more sort of cohesive discussion. But we're going to try and allow plenty of time so that everyone gets a chance to speak. If you feel while listening to one of the speakers that you have a question or comment sort of bursting out of you that you can't wait with, you could try writing. If you write a little note with your name and your question in the chat, then I will try to pick up all of those at the end when it comes to question time. So if you have a question you don't want to forget. Otherwise, I think I've forgotten to introduce myself. My name is Adam Bott. I know about half of you here. For those who don't, I'm Director of Education at ALEF. And we get a little wave from some of our other ALEF team members who are with us today. We have Ebba, our project manager. Hi, Ebba. And we have our brand new, since last week, Secretary General, Marcus. And our founder and chairperson, Hélène. Unfortunately, I think there's too many of us to all sort of present ourselves individually, but what I might ask you to do, if you don't mind, is if you would like to introduce yourself in the chat, everyone could write your name, maybe where you are, and if you're here representing an organization, what that organization is and your position, and we all kind of get to know each other. And with that said, I think I would like to hand over to Hélène to welcome us today and say a little bit about what this theme means to her and to ALEF. Hélène.
Thank you, Adam. I wondered if you turned off the PowerPoint, we could see everybody. Now we can just see a few people on top. Is that possible? Yeah, lovely. Hello, everybody. How lovely to see you all. Literacy and women's rights. Today, there's about 500 million women who don't know how to read and write, which is a little bit too many. Of course, literacy in itself is a human right. It's a human right to be allowed to learn how to read and write. but literacy also makes human rights available to women. It's by knowing how to read and write that women can learn about their rights, can claim their rights, and can access and use their rights. So literacy and rights are very, very closely linked. And this is something we realized when we started ALEF and the ALEF the adult education programs. And when we started cooperating with our partners in Uganda, in Congo, and in Togo, we decided to build in the women's rights aspect into the program. It's not something that just comes automatically by learning by learning to decode and decipher letters on papers. It's something that needs to be built in to empower women, and it's extremely vital, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from the speakers what they have to say on this topic, which is so near the heart of ALEF. So thank you, and I'm all ears.
Great. Thank you very much, Hélène. Our first speaker today is Rafat Nabi. Rafat has decades of experience of both research and program management in education in hard-to-reach areas, particularly in Pakistan and Afghanistan. She has worked with the Aga Khan Foundation, with the Swedish Committee for Afghanistan, with Save the Children. She's also the co-author, together with Brian Street and David Rogers, of the book Hidden Literacies. Currently, she's a team leader of the Select Education Program in Sindh in Pakistan and a visiting researcher at Lancaster University. She has, I believe, just put the sort of finishing touches on a forthcoming book, supposed that sort of encapsulates her long career and her experience in formal and non-formal education in challenging regions. And I think it's some of the conclusions and ideas from that book that Rafat is going to share with us today. So Rafat, I will hand over to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Now you know who am I. So I'm leaving this. Why I am here today, just to share the key findings of my latest books, which is in a printing process. Education, I did my master's, PhD, postdoctorate, and 3 fellowships from different universities of England. And then experience, as Adam said, more than 40 years experience in the worst isolated, insecure areas of Pakistan and Afghanistan, where nobody can reach, where the education for girls and even for boys was a serious problem, risky areas. So the experience which I got from these areas, so I'm confident that we can provide literacy everywhere in the world, no matter how difficult they are, insecure they are, but we need a right kind of ingredients. And now publication, so I'm not going that. Next, my book, Adam, next. My book, which I am going to share, is Potpourri of Successful Ingredients for Non-Formal Education. And next, there are 12 chapters of the book, but we will discuss here the findings of 4 chapters, but it depends on time. Next, Adam, what I found when I was, and the book is written almost last 10 or 15 years experience working in the field of non-formal education in different part of Afghanistan, different part of Pakistan, particularly northern area, difficult part where rigidity is extremely high. So what I'm working at 4 levels: policy level, capacity building level, delivery level, and research and documentation level. And what I found in the field of non-formal education, even in formal education, there are confusions. And particularly 7 confusions exist, whether you are working for mobile communities, you are working in insecure areas, working for girls or working for boys. So the first confusion which I found is still, I think the policymakers are confused what is education or schooling. Generally, they think that education can only be through schooling, and that is the confusion. Education can be beyond school walls. And the second confusion which I found is expansion and inclusion, whether they want to go for expansion or whether they want to go for inclusion, particularly donor funded program. What they say, this area only 2 center, but if the participants, girls and boys, are much higher, then then it become an ethical issue. You will take 60, but rest we can't take it. So that's when they talk about expansion. So I think they have to talk about inclusion if they are going in one area. So all the students who are in that age, they should be in education center. I'm not using the word schooling, I'm using the word education center. The third confusion is what is non-formal education. What I found in South Asia and many countries, there is a confusion what is formal education, what is non-formal education. Just they are just using the word non-formal education or alternative route, but the rigidity are the same: fixed syllabus, fixed curriculum, fixed timings, fixed this, fixed this. So the confusion is strongly exists at policymaker level, capacity building level, that formal education is non-formal education is very different in terms of approaches, in terms of strategies, in terms of assessment. You can't mix up both. And that's the reason I think we have a failure record last 15, 16, 17 or more than 23 decades. We are using the failure methods again and again. And the fourth confusion which I have found, nobody knows what is curriculum at the teacher's level or at the capacity at teacher's training level. What they see, the curriculum is the textbook, but the written curriculum, which is developed with the SLOs, students' learning outcome, nobody have seen it. That is in the cupboard of government departments. The next confusion I found, yes, they develop learning materials just for the decoration purposes. I hardly see whether they use this learning material. In some centers, walls are full of how to use these learning materials in teaching and learning process. The next confusion I found between testing and assessment, number, testing, and then declare you have failed or unfailed. So there is no system of continuous formative assessment or continuous assessment. The complaint which learners and teachers, learner particularly, say, yes, we know better than that, but we have failed. So we have to go for the assessment rather than testing, which is more associated with formal schools. The seventh confusion is the concept of involving parents or keeping them away. So many centers or teachers discourage parents to involve in the teaching learning process of the non-formal education, where the age is 6 to 16 usually. So these 7 confusions does matter a lot in expansion or inclusion of the in the literacy areas. Adam, next. Then I found some myth which is decades and decades exist, that they said generally, they said out of school children's understanding regarding literacy is much low. And 3 days before, I was in one rural areas and 14 years old came up to me and said, why do you think if we are out of a school and so our literacy is lesser than those who are in schools, why don't you have a competition? Then you know it's a myth, we know much better. And it is quite a strong statement, which is very close to the reality. Then the second myth that non-formal education is a replica of formal. A replica, I don't know, these terms exist in this part of the, the designers thing and this, which are very expensive. Then the same design comes in a very low cost material, which are called replica. So they think the myth is that non-formal education is replica, or non-formal is basically a literacy thing. And the next myth is that all non-formal education is only for the poor people. And it is kind of Lunda Bazaar. Again, it's a term in South Asia where the second-hand material from developed countries come and they sell in a cheap prices. So I was shocked to hear this thing. Oh, non-formal education, it's just a second-hand. But they said, even in second-hand markets, some things are very, very good quality. So don't consider that our centers is less than formal schools. So the term which you used, replica and Lunda market, is quite, exciting for me. And the next myth, which exists at all level, policy making level, capacity building level, that primary teachers can effectively teach in non-formal. No, they can't, because non-formal education is altogether is a different game. And then the next is one size fit all, whether you are teaching 5+, whether you are teaching 16 years old, whether you are teaching in formal schools. So one side, rural areas, urban areas, insecure areas, it cannot be fit. It cannot be fit, one size fit. What Ellen Roger was quite strong in this thing. The next myth is school literacy versus non-formal literacy. What I found in my small research, I was doing a sort of literacy assessment using the AGRA tool and using the ASSER tool, that in many cases, non-formal centers students are much better in terms of school students. And the next myth, that non-formal, that the literacy can be or can only be taught or learned by textbooks, bound of textbooks. No, again, textbooks are not the sole path to literacy skills. They know those centers which are going beyond the textbook, their students are much, much better. So these are my findings. And then the next, Adam. And then this is very interesting. What I checked expectation. Everybody have expectations from each other, but unfortunately, these expectations never be addressed at one place. For example, community have expectations from government, government, NGOs, or implementing partners and donors. So if I will see communities' expectations from government, and they think, the community think, I met hundreds and hundreds of people, they said government must recognize our right, although all the documents say, but at the practical level, no. And then assurance of access, this is the government responsibility. And unfortunately, government is failed. So every third is missing in Pakistan. So very, very bitter situation, very painful situation. And then inclusive policy development, again, that's a government expectation. They should include everybody in the policy, whether they are disabled, they are women, they are girls, they are whoever they are, whoever are excluding, whether the transgender, whoever are excluding, they should be included. And then they, again, committee said government should not come with the rigid methods because donor wants that, because NGOs wants that. They should realize the reality of that place. And here I don't think you have this problem. Those learners who wants to, after getting equal grade 5 level of literacy, they should be registered in the formal schooling if they want. And for me, it was very important. They were talking about empowering local initiatives. And community said, you come with your agendas, you don't involve us. So you should encourage, and government should encourage the local initiatives. And they need vocational and need-based courses. And then they have the expectations from NGOs that NGOs should tailor training as per the need, not a package developed somewhere else, some organizations, some donor funding programs, away from the reality. So they were very, very critical communities that training of teachers or capacity building of teachers are not relevant. Then they should encourage us the package of non-formal literacy centers. The community want NGOs that they should empower and train the community leadership. They should build their capacity, which is hardly taking place. Then they talk about integrated community development. Then I will come for donors. Donors come, and personally, I have serious problems. I am sick of that now. Donors come with the set agenda project, and after that, they just go back, and the project, it closed, no sustainability, time bound. So, and the NGOs wants to please them. So NGOs, because they want to get the money, so they just accept it. But community having problem, ethical issues with that. And there is no, because everybody is more interested in numbers. So ongoing participation, they said, community said that donors should come at the grassroots level and participate in different things. And they also want support for research and best practices, which is not there. And Adam, next. And the expectation of government, then government have the expectation of communities and implementing partners. So many are the same. So, but communities, I will talk about communities, other one, both are mostly the same. They have the expectation, government, that community increase female participation. They have the expectation, but they are not listening what community want, what issues they have, what cultural barriers they have. Rather than addressing these things, they just have the expectation that community increase the female participation. Then they talk about proactive advocacy role, community contribution, and community must understand government limitations, they said. Acceptance of government facilities, these things. And both are the same best. Next. Expectation of implementing partners. Next, Adam, next. No, the before that. Yes, expectation. Okay, donors. Yes, so it almost are the same, but here I will talk about donors, what they want from communities. Donors said communities are expected to align with the expectations outlined for the government and implementing partners. But the issue is that whether they were involved or not. So the donors' expectations from community said it's not fair with that. So and now next, Adam, yes. And now here, this is very, very important, because I was looking book from the learner's point of view, from learners' classes, because they are at the bottom, nobody involved them. So I was taking interviews from 6 to 16 years, but usually they are in the literacy center. So and these are eye openers. If we will take these, what they are talking seriously and built in our policy document, I don't think these things will go, will have less success. So I asked 3 questions: what you like in the classroom, what you don't like, and what would you like to witness in the centers. Centers is literacy center. The dominating thing is they want ICT-based education. And there are good examples. In the Education Foundation is examples. Society in Balochistan, hands in Sindh, they are doing a lot in ICT-based education, even in the rural communities. Adam, next. So when I asked them, so that what activities do you find most enjoyable in your center's teaching? So they indicated 12 activities, which were indicated by many of them. When teacher does something a little different from the unusual boring teaching methods. Boring teaching methods, lecture, and teacher talk, and learners listen. And they said occasionally when the teacher assigned group work, and the teacher usually assign group work when the visitors come, when give us challenging tasks, and these are the methodologies for non-formal education. Sometimes when teacher allow us to ask questions, when teacher give us permission to create our own language games, and then they said, of course, when visitors visits. Next. When the teacher is in a good mood, talking to us, encouraging us, asking riddles, cracking jokes. So these are not impossible things. If these things are part and parcel of the capacity building teachers training program, the chances are high. The next is when then teachers appoint older learners to be our buddies. They are mostly more comfortable where 15, 13, 14 years old girls and boys become their buddies. So they learn from them in a relaxing environment rather than when they are under the teacher's style. Then they said when we value applying our learning in our community and homes, such as conducting surveys and managing home budgets, and nothing is there in their syllabus. And they said for us, center, we come to center because it's a social hub for us, providing an opportunity to step out for our homes, chat and learn from each other. Next. Older students often express that this is the strength of the center, coming out just for coming not just for certification, but to meet and interact with each other. Next. And responses were given by younger learners, 6 to 10 years. Responses were different from 10 to 16 years. Younger learners said they want play outside more, not sitting in a center, drawing. And although this happens only sometimes, playing language games, activities like guessing, when guests come and the teacher employs different teaching method. Even 6, 7-year-old child understand today the teaching is different because teacher want to please the visitors. So they want to show. It means teachers can do it if the proper monitoring system is there and encouragement is there. When the teacher is in a good mood, mostly learners said when teacher is in a good mood. Next. The learners, the things or activities the learners did not enjoy, sit quietly and do nothing. When we hear the teacher say, sit quietly, and they said, we asked each other, why didn't come to this center to sit quietly? We are grown up and sometimes knows better. Sometimes knows better. In many centers, it expressed by older learners. Copy from the blackboard they don't like. Teachers mood again and again. Everybody said they don't like. Next. Next. Teachers make wrong corrections, ignore mistakes, or sometimes teach incorrect spelling. They said, many said, older learners, we know better, but we know that this is a wrong spelling, but teacher didn't correct it. So why teacher give us a time to do the group corrections or peer correction or thing? And when they usually get the resources very late, so they don't like it. The testing and examination system is very old-fashioned. They said it, and they said they can't do justice to our learning and knowledge. Mostly in every center, limitation or no use of ICT-based material in this 21st century. And the next only motivation is to receive a certificate, but teaching is very, very boring. Significant wastage of learning time. no proper monitoring and guidance from implementing partners or NGOs. They come, they do the number kind of thing, monitoring, head counting, and this. Next, very limited opportunities for interaction, lack of opportunities for thinking-based activities. They are telling us the whole curriculum, the themes. Why can't we listen them? Why policymakers can't listen them? The next is now features they like in the center. Usually what they don't like, they would like to see it, like treat us respectfully. Younger person mentioned treating them with love and avoiding threat, such as complain, we will complain to your parents. And all the things which we said they don't like it, they want to say in the class. So I will skip this. Next. Yes, ensuring that learning in the line with the latest technique. Living in the rural areas does not mean that we cannot utilize technologies. So 10 and plus learners said that not in one place, in many, they are having the mobiles, they are having the smartphones, but the teaching is very, very old fashioned. Many of us already know how to send messages on WhatsApp, use social media, and search on Google, built on what learners already know and experience. So allocate time for skill-based training, kind of these things, provide opportunity to develop project and assignments and present them, encourage asking questions. So these are the things which they said. Next. Yes, so ensure proper monitoring, everybody said it, creating opportunity for, I'm just talking about number 16, creating opportunities for non-formal centers, competition between them. So which they are working in isolation, they don't know what the other centers are doing, which are very close in sometimes, but they don't know. So establish a community consisting of teachers, NGOs. They were talking about the committee, which consists teachers, NGOs, and learners to share stories, strength, and issues. Nothing is there. So community is completely away. Train and utilize us as a reserve community. Very important, number 18, very important. Train and utilize as a reserve community force of volunteers during natural disaster, such as flood. And this we did it in Afghanistan when we were working in Swedish committee for Afghanistan. Next, I will skip this. Next. Now they have the teachers have the desires. That was the learners' desire. Now teachers think that focus capacity building in the field of non-formal education, not just for the sake of irrelevant training, enhancement and understanding of concept of science and math, enhancement of understanding of curriculum and students' learning outcomes. So they should know what students should know. Strong monitoring and support. Next. Gaps between expectations and capacity building themes. So they were saying our expectations are different. We want this thing and capacity building on a very, very, very old method. So and provision of resources in time, recognition of our good work. There are some very good practices, but nobody is recognized them. There is no platform which can share, each other's learning. So these are number 8. I'm skipping because these are the dropouts reasons. Next. Disconnect between education content and practical life issues. This is teachers' biggest issue. What we teach, there is no link between learning and the practical life. Rigid rules and regulation, insecurity within and outside the center. In many centers, the centers are in somebody's home. So of course, all the family members are there, boys are there. So sometimes they feel insecure going there and become, the teachers feel insecure and older learners feel insecure. Lack of supervision again. And these challenges, what I will say, I will take care of all these things, no matter what conditions are, rate of literacy will be increased. My belief is that my experience working in extremely conservative areas in Afghanistan, where they can't think about the girls' education, particularly when I was in Swedish committee, even in Pakistan, in many conservative areas, but you should know how to reach them rather than singing a song. It's not possible. Go through the communities, it will be possible. By listening, yes, by listening attentively to their voice, policymakers, NGOs, donors, teachers can work together to create more inclusive, engaging, and effective learning environment. This is my belief. This is my experience. And I wish somebody can give me 1 year and I can go for whole village literacy. Like in northern areas, in Hunza, we did it 100% literacy rate when we were working in these areas through community. Many areas are there where the literacy rate are now 100%. So why can't we do it? But the problem, we don't want to learn from each other. And there were A to Z potpourri of successful literacy center. Some are there. For example, they want to see the accelerated teaching method, buddy system, conducive print reader, all these things. So there are A to Z. This is the finding of my book. What are the potpourri of successful ingredients? Next. That's the last slide. Next. Yes. And these working together, learning, achieving together, learning together. And for working together, these are the pillars. They should work quite closely, not as a token involvement. They should work quite community involvement. Hardly is there monitoring, number monitoring is there. Donors live in other world. NGOs want to please them. So they should come and, not coming as a kind of project thing, project closed and the shop is closed. They should learn from Khan Education Service community-based program. And still, I think there were 20 years before now, still they are sustained. They become colleges, they become, although they were the community-based program. So we should learn, and there are these successful examples in BRAC, successful example, Action Aid success, but there is no platform, or perhaps we don't want to learn. Next and last slides. We should, I personally think that we are suffering from severe poverty of thoughts. We don't want, or we are hesitant, we are afraid to, experimenting projects on a small villages, like whole area development program, and learn from them with the integration. If as soon as we will come out from this poverty of thought kind of thing and think creatively, what are the needs for this time, need of this time, we will be successful. We have seen, we have learned, but the problem is, do we want to bring the change, or we want to repeat the similar failure? I'm sorry, I'm very frustrated now. Similar, the things are there, what learners want, and give them a charge in community. You will see the result is there, train them, monitor them. And here I am ending. Thank you very much for listening patiently, and any questions, so I can take it.
Thank you so much, Rafat. You called it a potpourri. I'd say maybe more a treasure trove. There's so much richness of ideas and different things to pick up there. I know there are a lot of questions, and 1 or 2 people have already sent me, but if you don't mind, we will take the questions all together at the end of the session.
Okay.
Not least questions about where to buy your book. But I think we'll move on for now. Our next speaker is Barbara Trudell. Barbara is a senior consultant in the use of African languages for learning. She currently works at SIL Africa Learning and Development, and has lived and worked in Africa for 30 years. She's currently in the United States. Among her many assignments, not least is a vital member of ALEF's advisory board. is going to talk to us today a little bit about her experience and her insight into relationship between literacy and women's rights. So I'll hand over to you, Barbara.
Thank you. Let's share my screen. Yeah, so thank you and good day on this International Literacy Day 2024. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about literacy and women's rights, in particular, the view from Africa. Well, at the heart of it, women's rights are human rights. Women's rights are the fundamental human rights that have been established and enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 75 years ago. And these rights include the right to live free from violence, slavery, discrimination, the right to be educated, the right to own property, the right to vote, and the right to earn a fair and equal wage. And if you look at women's literacy in particular, the Education for All goals, which were, I've got my screen too much here. The Education for All goals from which were in effect from 2000 to 2015, EFA Goal 4 included achieving a 50% improvement of levels of adult literacy. And then they said, especially for women. So there weren't any extra numbers there and no extra advice on how to do that, but at least it was mentioned. And in 2014, the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning was talking about empowering women through literacy. And they said, the empowering role of literacy for women is uncontested. And yet more systemic improvements and concerted efforts are needed to reduce the gender gap. So they were recognizing that near the end of EFA, it was still a serious problem in terms of women being marginalized from literacy capacity building. And looking specifically what is written about African women's rights where literacy is concerned, the African Union Protocol on the Rights of Women in Africa of 2003 said, state parties shall take specific positive action to promote literacy among women. And you know, here I have to give my plug. I'm a language girl, so I have to tell you that certainly in Africa, the language of literacy learning is crucial for successful learning. And we in SIL have found this to be true all around the world and for men as well as women. But in our women's programs, we're very clear that the language of literacy instruction has to be a language that the women learners can speak and understand. And in Africa, that often means they must be taught in a home language, not an international language or a school language. Looking at literacy rates overall, men and women, as of 2022, the global literacy rate, we are told, stands at 87%. However, there are strong regional inequalities around the world, and that's no surprise either. But if you look, for example, at Mali's literacy rate of 31%, this is men and women together, it's one of the lowest in the world. And South Sudan's literacy rate, 35%. So there are serious issues in Africa in particular regarding literacy rates for men and women. But there is no question that women are the most marginalized when it comes to literacy skills acquisition. Worldwide, 493 million women cannot read. And that number is nearly twice as many women as men. So the consequences of losing this right to literacy include things like lack of access to health information for a mother and her family. So this lady is holding the medicine the doctor gave her at the clinic, but she doesn't know the dosage. She can't read that. She doesn't know which child it might be for because she can't read that. And dangerous health situations can come into play when the dosages and the medications are not done correctly. And how would the woman know? She's not literate, she can't read. Greater difficulty finding economic success in the marketplace. So that not only do you have to know how to grow the fruit and the vegetables and whatever and get them to market, you have to know how to price them. You have to know, can I give discounts? You have to know, if it costs me this much, how much can I charge? You see greater likelihood of such women raising their children in poverty. And this illiterate lady's children are less likely to go to school. They're less likely to learn how to read. However, there are some really interesting consequences of women becoming literate as well. Women who are empowered by literacy have a positive impact on all aspects of development in their societies. Literate women are more likely to send their children to school, especially their girl children. They're more likely to have better health themselves as mothers because they have learned, they have access to learning about such things. They're more likely to make better healthcare decisions for their children. They're likely to have access to more life choices for themselves, and they're more likely to contribute economically in their larger community. So this is what the documents say. But what do African women say about literacy? Now, I have two sources for the information I'm going to share. One of them is a 2019 research study of the impact of adult literacy programming in local languages, carried out 20 years or more after the programs were in place. So this was in Ghana, Ethiopia, Cameroon, Kenya, and Burkina Faso. And I'm privileged that one of the co-authors here, Ian Sheffy, is in this meeting, and the other co-author is not myself. He is a very close relative, however. And the other source is current literacy and early grade reading programming that's going on in Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, Namibia, and Uganda. So when you ask these women, what was the difference? Why was it good to become literate? And you hear them talk about things like locally appropriate business skills, such as this woman from Ghana who says, I'm a farmer. I'm able to write down the dates of when I sowed my millet or my crops, knowing that this year by this time, if I sow, I'll get enough rain to have a good harvest. They talk about self-confidence and rights. This lady from Cameroon saying, if you are not literate, you cannot associate among people. Now I'm free. I can stand. I can address people. By the way, I need to tell you, these interviewees gave permission for sharing their comments. So I didn't pirate these. They talk about financial knowledge. This lady from Kenya saying, before I went to literacy class, I could buy and sell things, and I would find myself with a heap of money. And I thought I had a lot of money. But since I learned how to read and write, I can count and I can see, well, I bought this much. So did I actually get a profit or a loss? That's sort of complicated thinking right there. They talked about written information that is generated by members of the language community in the community's own language. So that's like letters and ledgers and account books or stories, even notes to yourself that you write on the palm of your hand with a ballpoint pen, such as this lady from Ethiopia. When people want to express themselves in writing, they tend to use their own language. The ladies also talked about being able to support their school children, to help them with their schoolwork, and to keep them going to school. The mothers and fathers of these Pokot-speaking school children in northeastern Uganda were saying, we will sell some of our goats to be sure that our children can go to school. They talked about other family-related benefits as well. Greater respect from the women's families, trust from their husbands with the family money. They talked about better decision-making about family health. And I love this picture. This is a lady, I believe in Malawi, who has learned to read in an adult literacy class. So she's demonstrating that she can read. And that's her husband next to her. And you see with his thumb, he's going, wow, she is so smart. I love that picture. You also hear them talk about a sense of solidarity and motivation with other women learners. So that literacy classes can be a context for resolving tensions within the community as the women share and talk together there. Collaboration on community projects, whether a kitchen garden project or a micro savings plan or other things that they think of. They also talk about greater personal confidence. They talk about being able to read road signs to know where they're going. They talk about being able to use public transport alone because they know where to get the tickets, they know how to move in that context, and they know where to get off. And they talk about being able to teach others to read, such as this Tanzanian lady who is leading a class of women learners. They also talk about community leadership, and this particular vignette that I got from Trudell and Sheffy is quite moving, and I think I wanted to give it a little more time. So Augustina, who is the lady you saw earlier in the presentation from Ghana, she learned to read in 1990 when she was 28 years old, and she is a speaker of the Kusal language of Ghana, and she saw that the Kusal language literacy class was providing the opportunity to learn, which she had missed as a child. She had not gone to school. She said, I was convinced that if I learned to read and write, I would also be like the literates in my community or the people who had gone to school. And Augustina now, this much later, considers her literateness, her ability to read and write, to be equivalent to that of the schooled people that she knows. So Augustina ran for assemblywoman in the locally elected assembly. Her opponent was a man with primary school education, and Augustina won. And her election to public office, as she saw it, was evidence that her non-formal literacy learning basically superseded her opponent's status as a man who had been formally educated. This is powerful stuff, and it puts women into places where they can do a very good job in leadership because of the literacy classes they've taken. So this is a fairly short presentation, but in conclusion, I just wanted to say that for many women around the world, being able to read, write, and do math is a significant high status skill set. And so these skills that are often taken for granted in the global north, and as a result, their status as rights for women may be overlooked, that they aren't seen as actual rights. So they're overlooked. But when African women's right to literacy is honored, honestly, it's good for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and the wonderful science. So much there that I know we in ALEF recognize stories we recognize in our own participants and their life stories. I want to hand over now to our last panel speaker, who is Resty Mutaawe. Resty is the executive director of the Ugandan NGO Change African Child International, which works to empower women and girls through non-formal education. She's also the project coordinator of Kachi's Empowerment Group project. This has been going on for a little over a decade. They have run in partnership with ALEF, so-called literacy empowerment groups for unschooled adults and young people, mostly women, living in poverty in and around Kampala and Entebbe in Uganda. And so she's going to tell us a little bit about what they have learned and some of the results they have seen. Resty, welcome.
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you, Adam, for inviting us as an organization to be part of this commemorating of the World Literacy Day, which was just yesterday, and for us today now really, we are memorizing it. Now quickly, I'm also going to share my presentation. I'm going to share it here. It's not allowing to share there, is it? It's okay? Yeah, it's here. Resty Mutaawe is my name, Director Change African Child International, and the coordinator for Empowerment Group Project, partnering with ALEF organization, an organization that has made us so perfect in the country, especially handling the adult literacy issues that today we are joining to be part of you. I want to share quickly what is Change African Child International together with the Adult Literacy. This is an organization that is dedicated to improving the lives of vulnerable children, the youth, women through education, healthy care, and community development initiatives in Uganda. CASI has been implementing the literacy program for more than 10 years now. But this, we couldn't make it alone. It was through the support of ALEF organization. We thank you, Hélène, for this perfect work in Uganda. It is really perfect for us. But since then, you have been moving with this project goal, groups of adults who are able to understand together, take control of their lives economically and socially, carry out income-generating activities, protect their healthy, care for the environment, and participate in decision-making. But this can only be done through reading, writing, and counting. As you are seeing on the side, the lady is writing on the back of the child. She missed it those years, now she's taking it on at an adult age. Next, we are seeing the impact so far we have done. We are grateful for ALEF support that we are able to reach this big number since we started in 2013, 6,375 beneficiaries on these people to have been a benefit of ALEF organization, not by our own effort as well. Here we are including even the new CBOs, because that's when we can expand. As we include other organizations, we expand them more to reach this big number. We normally organize them in groups, and since 2013, we found in our records we have reached, at least we have formed the 258 groups of small groups of 25 people in their learning settings. Then we have also trained 240 leaders. Some others call them instructors or facilitators, but for us, we call them group leaders because they are leading adults. So we don't say they are instructing them, they are leading them. And 12 coaches since we started. Those have been capacitated and have been given the knowledge to grow the program of the ALEF, and we are able now to reach this big number. And next, we are going to share with you the best approach for us, we think, and the methodologies and why really we have reached this. Still, we joined hand with ALEF organization to design a well-designed curriculum that aligns with the needs of women, integrating women, human rights, economic empowerment, environmental conservation, civic engagement, and healthy education. All those topics and more than that are included in that curriculum, so that we handle them accordingly to their experiences. That's why I'm saying bullet 2, the activities in the groups are based on knowledge, experience. What do they know? What you know, they have a lot of knowledge that they have myths and the right information. So you place the myths aside and you correct them to align with what they should want to know and study. So these activities in the groups are based on knowledge, experience, challenges, plans, and dreams of the participants. What do they want to achieve? So you are aligning within that, and they will study it well. They contribute to that. The groups provide the settings where people can develop new insights, skills, knowledge in sharing and reflecting together, making decisions about their changes in their lives. That is, it is a participatory. They will discuss issues in class and they will find solutions for those issues, and they will conclude and move by that conclusion as a team. They will even display it on roadsides on our signposts for other people to read, so that it will impress the community that these people are not wasting their time, they are reading hard and completely they are changing their lives. Next, we'll share the limitations to adult learning. We have a lot of limitations, but we tried to pick some key issues that we couldn't leave out. We have time constraints. This one here is the multi-responsibilities of women. They have a lot to do in the homes. They are babysitters, they are cooks, they are laundry, they are everything. So that you find that to decide to go for reading and writing, you take a decision for these women. Some others even fear to join because of that multi-work. Our men in Africa, they are not supportive. They find you doing all that lot of work, and alongside you will have to go to class by yourself. Either you go with your child, they don't mind. That's why they come with their children. They remain with children. And we have seen that one as a constraint. 2, accessibility of resources. Fewer opportunities for adult education. Now for us, we are covering almost 2 districts, that is Kampala and Wakiso districts, that is Entebbe, but almost the number in Uganda, it is quite big of those people who are not going to school. So we are just contributing to a small drop, meaning the whole other area. And some classes are not convenient. They will study from out. But that one, they are used to it. And some other people fear, if I go outside, the bypassers will see me reading and they will say I didn't go to school. So it brings again so the degree of these people having the expert in using the digital devices is completely not that big. Though if you have the phones or the relatives have, they cannot use it to access information. Only 1 or 2 uses, either you receive a call or you can call, that is all. She will even call a neighbor to come and check the contact person she wants to call. So you find it is completely difficult for these for these people who are not in this group of learning. Of course, stigma associated with low literacy discourages individuals from participating in the adult literacy. How do people know that I didn't go to school? And it denies you the opportunity of attending when this chance is still available. By the time it closes, that's when I wish I should have attended. I wish I should have done this. So that is the stigma part of it. Now we have a current situation now in our country, Uganda, which is characterized by significant challenges, despite some improvement in the literacy rates over the years. As for 2022, the adult literacy rate in Uganda stood at 80.59%, which indicated that approximately 19.41% of the adult population aged 15 and above remained illiterate. This translates to about 9.2 million Ugandans who can't read and write effectively. And that is really still a big number. So there is a specific data available there is no specific data for 2023, though the one which is there, it is for Arabic, the Muslim who couldn't write Arabic and what is there. But for English and reading and writing for these local languages, completely it's not there yet. projection for 2024 within the provided information. This illiteracy is contributing factor in Uganda because of these three key, though there are others: education, access, and quality. Yes, we have the universal primary, and of course I start with that. When you're at a secondary, you are a bit okay. But the universal primary education for the government thing, it is far distances for young ones to move. So you find those who are near will access, but still there are also payments within the universal education where parents have failed to enroll their children in those schools and they end up not going to school. And the quality itself, if you see, I saw Barbara was sharing African situation. The schools itself, the buildings, someone would say, I better stay home than go to such a building for education. Two, there also gender disparities for the African norms for the ladies, it is still a challenge. Other families, they prefer girls to stay home, boys to go for school. So those classes are still there. Then the impact of COVID-19, that one also worsened slightly some situation. People grew old when they were in the holidays, I should call it holidays of 3 years, 2 years. And we are going to experience more people joining the program because people really stopped. Primary 2, she says, no, I'm old enough to go to primary 3. Why don't I stay home and I go and do these other issues? But in our cultures, we have the saying that if you don't go to school, you'll feel it when you are old. When people start saying here, you cannot sign. Read this, you cannot read. So you feel it at an adult stage. At this time, the children will not feel it. But at 30 years, at 25 years, that's when they will feel it. We also wanted to share the importance of this literacy in advancing women's rights, which is profound.
Are you still with us, Resty? I think your sound dropped there for a moment.
Now I can make my informed decision at a family level, at a community, whether at a local council, so they can make their own decisions. They are independent, and all this is a result of the project we are in. Two, the economic opportunities, the income generation. This is a final target for after the level 3. We encourage them to get involved in generating income so that the financially should be stable at the family. And the job opportunities, people are looking for the jobs because they now can write some simple application, whether it is clean up at a government entities, they can make it, whether at hospitals, at least it is better than to stay home. Now also the healthy and well-being, information access, this family planning, to descriptions of the drugs and expiry dates, they can now read them. So they are no longer ignorant that they will be captured unknowingly with these healthy issues. Also the participation in civic and community life. We have seen the women who have gone through the empowerment group project, who really can stand out for their legal rights, for the leadership in the community, even in the homes, especially those clan affairs, so that they can be leaders. They have testified so. Also improving their family and community dynamics, removing that a lady shouldn't go to school. At least the women who have studied with us, they have supported their girls now continue with education because it pained them by coming for it at an old age and breaking the cycle of illiteracy. They can go to school to check their children's reports. They can also ask for teachers to support their children. Before they couldn't differentiate at 20. through outreaches. Once men are engaged to support these ladies, maybe we can have a stable program running and being appreciated by government, and then whole global-wise, I should say that. Also offering counseling and guidance sessions to prospective participants to reduce low literacy stigma. People even fear to join the group because how will they see me? How will people hear about this, that I joined this group, I didn't go to school? So that one, and speak to these people to change their mindset, and it will work well. Also providing learning shelter for adult literacy to address the weather issues and participants with children. Maybe in the future to have the care spaces so that they don't write on the back, which is a bit risky, but what can they do? But if we have those care spaces during the meetings, during their lessons, then it would be a bit healthy. Lastly, I had, among the many success stories, I picked this was interesting for the many we have, because every month we notify their new success stories these people share, and they would always want them to record them down. We have a lot of them. I want to share Rosie's story, and I will read it the way it is. Who's in level 3. Says, I'm part of the leadership team in my country, in my community, serving as a women affairs representative. 2 years back, I could not read and write anything. When I joined the empowerment group, my dream was to learn how to read and write on my own. Since I had kept my illiteracy as a secret, you can imagine. I'm happy that I can now read, write, this is on my own, and discuss issues with other people, participating in discussions on different topics, as has helped me to widen my reasoning capacity. I have gained out women who have problems in markets to solve them as their representative. This made me proud and earned me more respect in my community. I grew up in a family of 10 siblings, and my mother was always referred to as a hero for a big number of children she gave birth to. Producing many children had always been my dream. This is what I was now saying. Producing many children has always been my dream, that I get respect like her, like the mother. But after sharing about family planning in my study book and looking at the number of children in the picture in the I pitied my mother. I always advised women to give birth to a few children to avoid health risks like losing literacy in case of any complications and death, which were discussed in the group. Whenever we meet for a lesson, I pick something and I share with other women in the market who never classes. I also encourage women in my empowerment group to read the story books to their neighbors, because through sharing, we gain knowledge. That was Rose's insight of what really has gone after the 3 years training. Yeah, I think that is the presentation I had. Thank you for listening with that presentation from Change African Child International by Resty. Yes, Adam.
Thank you so much, Resty, and what an inspiring note to finish on. We have, as usual, one wishes one could we had an hour to discuss all these different ideas and perspectives, but we've got a good 10 minutes or so. Perhaps I could ask anyone who has any questions to raise your hand, or if possible use the little hand raising emoji device. I have already a request from Naeem Maleki. who says she's been doing research with UNESCO and would very much like to comment on some of the things that Rafat was saying. So, Naima, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Adam, and wonderful to see Rafat. It's nice to see you and looking forward to read your book. As when you were talking about these wish lists of students and the myth and the challenges and everything around the adult literacy learning, it reminded me of my work with Alan Rogers. We were exploring about the teachers' potentials, you know, in adult literacy in Afghanistan, specifically in Herat. And there also we said something similar to what you also found about the literacy being not the primary job of many literacy facilitators. It's their second job or even a third. And when we were investigating the reason, most of them said it's not sustainable job. It's a contract, an organization is coming, we sign a contract, it's only for 9 months. And then we lose it. And then we have to have another, you know, sustainable job for us. And the payment was not also enough, they said. It's the same for the teachers and for the students. And we found also that the reason many teachers have very repeated method of teaching, like lecturing, is mostly because they don't prepare. And when we investigated further, it's because they don't have time. It's not their job. It's not their main job, teaching adult literacy. And in my current research, one of my students actually, one day session that I was there because I was observing the class and the teacher changed, as you said, because of the observer, the method of teaching, turned into a best day of literacy for my participant, my student participant. When after the class I was talking to him, he said, today I had the best day ever. And the reason was because there was a little, very simple group work. The teacher distributed like the class into 5 groups and then provided each group with 3 letters and said, come generate words that starts with these letters. It was very simple, but it was very interesting for the students because it was different. And everyone had a chance to participate instead of one student goes and writes the dictations on the board and everyone else silence and just listen to them. I'm gonna put a link for the research if anyone would like to just have a look. And it was very nice to hear you and every presenters in this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think you are supporting what I said it, and similar situation in Pakistan in many difficult areas, and similar I found, but I always found a way. Sometime name I use religious sayings. Fortunately, our first holy word is Iqra, which means read. And many times I said, that's not my agenda, that's God's agenda, read. And we are far, far behind. So, and I think things can work out. Little bit involvement, little bit encouragement, little bit moving away from this traditional teacher talk. What Roger said, teacher always think they are the authority of knowledge. In that sense, adult literacy sense, so they are not, because many times older learners, youth know much better than the teacher, but how to utilize them. Hello?
Yeah, thank you. Adam, you want to take it?
Yeah, sorry, did we, sorry, I want to, thank you, Rafat, and we have another hand up from Naima Han.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Rafat, Barbara.
Could I just say possibly to present yourself briefly, so where you are, what you're working with, so everyone.
Sure. So I live in Leeds. I have just retired from Leeds Beckett University. I used to be course leader for the MA in English language teaching, but my main history of work is teaching English as a second or other language to people new to the UK. And I trained teachers as well in this area. If training is probably not a good word, I worked and learned from a lot of teachers there. And currently, I'm co-chair for the National Association for Teachers of English and Community Languages in the UK. And so anyway, so part of our work in English as a second language was around developing literacy in first languages so that those women could access their English language, English as a second language courses. So my question really is about, for you, Rafat, and Naeem, thank you. You actually did partly answer my question about, because it is about resources for teachers. So is there anything which stops teachers from getting together and developing their own resources? So here in the UK, and I'm going back 30 years, showing my age here, where again, you know, there was hardly any internet. Not all the teachers had access to computers, and they were part-time. So teaching literacy in the learner's first language was not their only job. And they actually taught those languages in other contexts as well. But they did get together and develop resources plus assessment materials for 3 levels, because we managed to put together some certification for literacy achievements in learners' first languages. So it took us about, I would say, a good year. And the key was also to have a review process and some criteria for the materials so that they were standard, because part of what we were trying to address was that in case the classes were inspected, we needed to have some sort of standardized approach to what was being taught, how it was being taught, and assessment. So sorry, this has ended up being a long question. So basically, is there anything stopping the teachers from getting together and developing resources? With the learners, with learner-generated materials as well.
I think the attitude, because I personally don't like the word training. I just go for development. Training, you give them the teaching guides, ask them to follow this teaching guide, give them the textbook, and just follow the textbook and the exercises which is, you know, regarding after each subject. So bounding and bounding, if you will, and because they are not aware of the students' learning outcome, which curriculum said and indicate, if they know that, and their job, just for me, just to achieve this, whatever way, your environment is very rich for literacy nowadays. So it's just, and the monitors come, did you follow this chapter, did you? So the monitoring process, not encouraging them, teacher, and in some way teacher are, because poor teacher, they are at the bottom of this ladder, they feel hesitant. But there are some organic teachers, many organic teachers, and if you will go in their class, they are just different. It's not a class, it's a learning process. They are learning, but it's a matter how you build their capacity to think, rather than following all the time textbooks, teaching guides developed with somebody else sitting somewhere, and they can't see any link. Just so we need organic learning and organic teaching. So, and there are examples, but the NGOs don't want to, you know, encourage them because donors limitation, this thing. So I think there are some very good example, and it is possible. I can give you a little example. In mountain area in Gilgit, high mountains, K2 and there is full of flowers. But because teacher was told, use the chart which is bought in Karachi, use them, they are not using their environment, and teach the flowers from the chart rather than from the environment. So it's just a whole approach. If we encourage them, and their minds are just. Once I remember, because there was not, you know, reading material was available. So we have a small competition, community competition, write down their stories. So the parents were telling the stories. Younger children were telling the stories, and those who can write, they have written. And there was quite a good, relevant material owned by community, developed by community, and you can teach literacy also. What is literacy? In many cases, you will be illiterate. In many places, I will be illiterate because I don't know this language. So the whole confusion related with the literacy, definition of literacy also, where there are multiple languages. But of course they can, that's why I said community-owned initiatives for literacy. That's whether it's a second language.
Rafat, thank you very much. If I could just also add that work that was done by this group of teachers was not funded. So it was a question of teacher agency and their professional pride.
Yes.
So it was about, owning up to being professional teachers. And I find that teachers are activists.
Yes.
And,
yes.
give them half an inch and they will take the tent.
Yes,
they have great
and
agency. They just need
do
the
magic.
space.
They will do the magic.
I see another hand up.
It's a training, use this. Somebody developed teaching guides, so that's the whole thing. So they stop their thinking process, and that's why I call poverty of thought.
Okay, we are running out of time, but I have two last requests. Firstly, Naeem wanted to make a short comment to Naeema's question, and then after that, Hélène has a question, and I think that will be what we have time for. Naeem.
Thank you very much, Adam, for giving me another chance. Naeema, great question about the teacher's agency and their involvement in the material development and in the process of teaching and learning. Unfortunately, in Afghanistan, it's mostly top-down. It's the government. Yes. It's the government that provides everything for them with the help of international organizations such as UNESCO. And like one of my teacher participants, he made a textbook because he didn't like the textbooks that was provided by the government. He said it's not what we want our students to learn. He said he has a textbook, but he doesn't have the budget to publish it, and no one is supporting. And even the government doesn't want to even look at it. As I'm quoting him. The problem mainly is the things, it's top down. I'm part of the National Literacy Committee in Afghanistan. And whatever we make, well, they are, in principle, they say we include all the teachers, but not really including, they're not including every teacher. Maybe some teachers from the capital city in Kabul, maybe they will be involved in a couple of questions asking them, but not in preparing the material. And when you ask the teachers, like, why don't you take part? They're like, there are professionals at the ministry who prepare everything, and they know better than us. So it's kind of, they have the agency within themselves, but giving them the power to use their agency in the correct way has not been really used properly in Afghanistan context, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you for that very helpful comment. I want to give word now to Hélène, who's had her hand up for a little while patiently, to ask a last question or comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the discussion on teachers. In ALEF, we have no teachers at all. We don't work with teachers. We work with facilitators.
Yes.
Yes. They have 2 weeks of training and usually have secondary school background, sometimes primary school. In one of our programs, there have been a lot of new literate people who have been facilitators, which is what they are. So it's not possible for them. They don't have a level of education where they could even begin to think about creating materials, because what they would do then would be to imitate the school system, which is what we absolutely don't want them to do. So in ALEF, it's our partner organizations who create the textbooks. They're not teachers either, usually, actually. They are development practitioners. like Resty and Irene here, they know the mother tongue of the learners, and they know their life challenges. The list that Resty showed us, the plans, the dreams, the desires, the challenges.
Yes.
The things that people practically have to overcome, the rights issues, the discrimination, and so on and so on. And that's it's on this knowledge of the prospective learners, what they struggle with in their daily lives. That's what's based all the texts on in the textbooks. All the texts are about people who are like the people in the groups. So there's no, and they are non-prescriptive. And we have open discussions where everybody is treated as an adult who can make comments, share experiences. And I think that's the success of our method, that we don't tell people what to do. We want them to talk about their life situation and decide for themselves what to do. So that's just very briefly, but we don't have teachers, no.
Thank you, Hélène. I think there are so many points here that we would like to be able to take up. We are all here approaching the same challenges with the same goals with slightly different strategies. I think that's what we'll have time for in our discussion today. But in terms of being able to take this discussion forward, a couple of people have already asked in the comments if it would be possible to share the PowerPoints and the presentations for today. I don't know, perhaps the easiest way is with your permission. Barbara, Rafat, Resty, is it okay if we send out a link to those presentations for all participants who would like it? Is it okay with you to circulate those?
I don't think
It's
I
okay
have
with
a
us.
problem. I don't
Barbara,
think,
yes.
I don't think I have a problem. This is for sharing, not for hiding. So
Okay.
basically, the book is under process. So if it's for, no, I don't think it's a problem from my side. If they can learn something, most welcome.
Fantastic. And when and where will the book be available? Do you know?
I think because I was stuck with this World Bank project, which is again about early literacy. So book is ready. It's just a references, which is a big task. I'm putting in references, then I will send it to the, but first book is now I think is already, which I have written with Hélène, Hidden Literacies. It is available on net also.
Yes, there is a link to Hidden Literacies. Someone has very kindly posted a link to Hidden Literacies in the comments. And perhaps when I send out the email with the PowerPoints, I can attach a link to Hidden Literacies as well, because it's a really rich book.
Just one request, if Naeem can contact me after this, so I just, Naeem, can we be in touch after this? So I just want to share something with you with this.
Yes, sure. I have your Skype. I will write to you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Wonderful and great. Yes, Barbara?
Yeah, just to say, you'd be welcome to share my PowerPoint. I have saved it as a PDF because that sort of sets things in concrete and it's just better. So, you know, I've sent you my PDF, and for
that's great.
The other colleagues, they might also want to save them as PDFs. They become like an eighth of the size, so it's a lot easier to share them.
That's a great idea. Maybe I will set them up as downloadable PDF files. Well, all right, then if anyone wants to sort of get in touch with us at ALEF after the meeting, or there's sort of someone that's a misconnection from in the seminar, we have our email address up here. It's info@alef.org. You can see some information about other events and news on our homepage or on our Facebook page, which is there. I just want to say real big thank you to Rafat and to Barbara and to Resty for taking the time today and preparing such rich presentations with bursting with so many ideas. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye bye.